Hi and welcome to another One Kit 10 cards. This is the June card kit by Simon Says Stamp, and as always, let's take a look first on what's included. You do get a big stamp set that gives you lots and lots of sentiments, and there are also a couple of Polaroid stamps, leaves, flowers, even stamps that give you washi tape little strips. And you get also the matching die set. So you get all the dies to cut out the sentiments, to cut out the Polaroids, even make windows for the Polaroids. Really fun, you will see how I'm going to use it today. Then you get a pack with two ribbons. You can see front and back the designs, lovely designs. I will be using those for a few of the cards, so you will get some ideas. And then there is the pattern paper. You always know that I focus on the pattern paper, and this kit is right up my alley. I absolutely love what is included. It makes making cards super easy. I am sharing 10 cards today, but I could keep on going to go up to 20 for sure. So you see lovely butterflies in lovely spring colors, lots of flower arrangements, and I absolutely love the color combinations on those pattern papers as well. Now you do get lovely bits and pieces that can help you create cards, like the acetate, foam strips, confetti, an envelope, and then you do get a 3D embossing folder, and it's one of those versatile designs that you can keep using throughout the year, and I will be using this a lot for my backgrounds today. 3 cardstock included. One of them is specialty, you can see this one, that you can use to cut out your Polaroids if you like, for an extra shine. And let's start with the first card for today. Now I want to use that big lovely design of the camera along with the flower arrangement and everything, so I'm going to cut it off so that it fits on top of my card. And just because I like to have elements popped on my cards, I'm going to use my scissors and somehow separate it from the background. Just making my life easy, I'm not taking into consideration too many details really. And then I'm going to bring in another pattern paper where I'm going to cut out the sentiments from. Now, as I'm putting together this card, I need to let you know that there is a bird or maybe a bird nest on top of my roof. Now my craft room is up at the top of our house, and I don't know if you can tell that the birds are doing a crazy noise. So I'm just going to stop talking for a while so you can hear it. It's driving me crazy all day. Anyway, I was waiting for the birds to stop for me to do the voiceover, but they don't stop. So you have to bear with me and just think that it's sound of nature. So back to the card, really easy to put together. Just stick that image on top, and I went landscape just to make sure that it's going to fit nicely. Then you can use either the strips included in the kit or just cut out foam strips from what you already have in your craft room. I cut out one of the butterfly. There is a pattern paper full of butterflies which I will be going to again and again. It's a great pattern paper to cut out butterflies and embellish pretty much every one of the cards that you make. I'm going to stick down the sentiments, all 3 of them, and I'm going to call this card done. You can definitely embellish it either with the sequins included in the kit, or if you do have Nouveau drops or my contour liner, you can add that too. Just a touch of shine here and there really elevates every card. And you can see here some close-up photos on the first card for today. And let's move on to card number 2. That's where I'm going to cut out a strip with all those butterflies, and you can keep the other part of that pattern paper because it makes a great background. I will be using it for the last card, I believe. Now you can choose which part of those butterflies you want to use depending on the color palette that you are going for. I cut out a strip trying to fit all the colors, as many colors as I could. And now for the background I'm using a white panel which I'm going to run it through my die cutting machine with the embossing folder. So you see it gives me that beautiful design at the back. And now I want to use some specialty paper. This is cardstock by Wafer, by Simon's Stamp, and you can definitely use silver or even gold cardstock so that you end up having thin strips on the left and the right of your panel, and this way it's going to add some shine. I'm adding some sequins to embellish it, and of course I did cut out one of the sentiments using the stamp and the dies from the kit. Now again, here are some close-up photos on the second card for today. And let's move on to card number 3. For this one, I'm going to use the pattern paper with the Polaroids, and I'm going to cut out a strip out of it. You can easily recreate the exact same card again and again, since you do get lots of those strips from this pattern paper. And then from the pattern paper with the butterflies, I want to use the back because I feel like it matches perfectly with my strip of Polaroids. I love that purple with the polka dots. But don't worry at all about it, I still have plenty of butterflies to cut out from the scraps. Now I am going to align this strip with the polka dots to make sure that this is nice and straight, and then I'm going to place it on top of my card base on an angle just to make it look more interesting. You can definitely go straight on top if you want. Now from this pattern paper I'm going to fuzzy cut the camera. I'm not going to bother at all with all that big flower arrangement. As you can see, I'm just going to chop it off because I can easily recreate it and make it dimensional with the dies that are included. So again, I'm going to create a little cluster there. I'm going to place it on top of my Polaroids, and then I'm going to bring in the leaf as well as some of the flowers and cut them out. This way, once they are all ready, I can create my cluster. This way I add some extra dimension on my card, it makes it look more special, and at the same time I feel like it adds more into the cluster that I created. Then all that's left to do is to add a sentiment. Again, for the sentiment I went with one of the sentiments from the stamp set. It is full of sentiments, you can use it again and again, plus the fact that you get the dies along with that are really convenient. So I'm just debating on where this would go better, and this is a happy birthday card. You can finish it off either with the sequins that are included in the kit, or I like to go with my contour liner to add some dots at the center of the flowers. And here are some close-up photos. Now for the next two cards I'm going to show you ideas on how you can use the dies that cut out the Polaroid photos. So you can either use it one inside the other, or you can use the inside to cut out images from the pattern papers or even from your photos to put them together. So all you have to do is to just use the stamp to stamp the Polaroid like I did here, and the dies to cut out the elements. So I'm placing this on top, and there is also another stamp that gives you this design of washi tape. Again, you get the die to cut it out as well. So as you can see, I created a couple of those using the same pattern paper. And all I'm doing is just stamping with the tiniest of the sentiments that are included in the stamp set. I even went with love a couple of times. I stamped a little heart in each one of them. You can even write down something if you want. And now all we have to do is to just put it together. I'm using the pattern paper that gives you that wood grain design, and I'm just placing them on an angle on top. Quick and simple and easy to recreate, plus you can customize it by using photos of you and the person that is getting the card. Now for the next card I'm showing you that you can use one inside the other to create a Polaroid but with a window. So for this one I'm going for a shaker element. I'm using double-sided tape at the back so that I can stick the acetate. Again, the acetate is included in the kit, so it is really easy to make this one. And then I'm going to use the foam strips, which are also included in the kit, to create that wall all around the Polaroid window. And then I can easily stick it on top of a background panel. Now you can definitely use any piece of pattern paper for your background. I chose to go with this one because it gives me the sentiment as well. And obviously you can make as many of those shaker elements as you want. Now, one of the hardest parts is to decide which side of the pattern papers you want to use. Anyway, I went with that lovely background, and all I need to stick the Polaroid on top and then just embellish it with some flowers and leaves on the side. So what I'm doing here is just creating an extra cluster of with flower arrangement just to make it look even more interesting. And again, I did use the dies from the kit. For the next two cards, I'm going to work with the ribbons so you can see them in action, and I will recreate the same design for two cards. That's why I will be working for those two cards simultaneously. So for one of them I'm going to go with a chair, for the other I will use the vase with the flower composition on top. Now I'm used to the ribbons by Stamperia since I designed for them and I have my own with them as well. So I tend to cut out the images that I want to use with my scissors so that I don't transfer the designs that are very close to what I want to transfer. So anyway, I found that these are slightly different than the ones that I'm used to. They require lots of rubbing just to make sure that everything is transferred, and also they are quite forgiving because they don't stick as quickly all over the place. So anyway, I am going to rub a couple of designs on two corners and the vase, creating a little image. I like the fact that it gives you a background and a focal point, and it kind of gives that mixed media look. To complete that look, I'm going to use some white paint, and I'm just going to add some splattering here and there. And I think that this completes nicely the design. Since I do have lots of brown on it, I'm going to add some brown splatters as well, making sure that they fall on the white area too, so that it's not that clean. And then I will repeat the same process with the image of the chair. Again, I will repeat the splattering as well with brown and white. And then I need to add something extra on those panels. I always like to have something dimensional on my cards. That's why I'm going to fuzzy cut a couple of butterflies. And you see that pattern paper goes a long way. I keep on cutting butterflies, and I will be cutting for the rest of the cards as well. So a tiny little foam square at the back, and my panels are ready. All I need to do is to stick them on my card bases. For that I'm using two panels of cardstock from the cardstock that was in the kit. Again, I'm going to do some splattering with white. By the way, I'm using white calligraphy ink, but you can definitely use any type of white paint that you have. I'm going to use the embossing folder for one of them just to give it a different look. And I'm going to run it through my die cutting machine. You can see how beautiful it looks. And then I can stick everything on top. Now I tend to work on panels, and then what I do is to just stick the panels on top of pre-folded white cards that are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm going to complete both my cards by adding the sentiments. Again, the sentiments are stamped and cut out with everything that was included in the kit. And here are some close-up photos on both of those cards. Exactly the same design, and you can recreate it again and again until you are left with no ribbons to use. And you will find many beautiful designs there that you can use as focal points. Now moving on to the next card, and here I'm cutting out a panel. This is going to be my background, lovely florals there. And then I need to add some focal points. For that again I'm going with the ribbons just to show you another design. So I'm working on a white panel this time, leaving white space underneath. I'm going to rub everything, make sure that I have a good transfer with that camera and the flower arrangement. And at the bottom I'm using some of the ribbon sentiments. There are many of them to choose from, so you can easily create a card for any occasion. Now this is Ginger, who decided to come into my craft room and invade my space. So I'm going to rub his back for a while and then let's move on to the card and finish it off. So I'm sticking the panel with foam squares at the back. I want to add extra dimensions, so I'm creating a little cluster. Again, I'm repeating the same steps that I did for previous cards, where I cut out those white flowers and some leaves using the dies from the kit. I'm finishing it off with some dots by using my gold contour liner. And here are some close-up photos of this card. Card number 9, and I want to show you an idea on how you can use the tags. So I'm just going to cut them out. You can use your scissors, you can use your paper trimmer, whatever is easier for you. And then there is a little hole at the top that I'm going to add with my crocodile. This is going to give you an opportunity to thread some string or ribbon, whatever you like. Then for the background, I'm going to use again a white panel and use the embossing folder. I've used that embossing folder a lot in today's cards, but I absolutely love it. So for all those 3 cards, tags, I'm going to add foam tape at the back and then thread some string. I have, actually this is silk ribbon. And with my T-ruler, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to stick them down straight. This is a landscape card, just to make sure that I can fit 3 of those. And you can recreate the same design since you get lots of those tags in that pattern paper. Now, I have those flowers that I cut out, and I want to show you what I do for the centers. I find that this is the easiest way to cut out tiny little yellow centers. So all I do is just stick them on top, and I know that that yellow matches perfectly with the rest of the yellows on the design because they come from the same pattern paper. Now I want to have elements popping again, so again here comes the butterflies from that pattern paper that is the most valuable probably from the whole set. And now I can stick on one tag the butterfly, and on the other 2 I'm going to create a little cluster with the white flowers and the leaves. For some of the flowers I go with tiny foam squares at the back, for others I just stick them down with glue. It really depends on how much dimension you want to add and where. So I find this card really adorable, definitely goes in my top 3 favorites from today's video. But don't forget to leave me a comment down below and let me know which one of your card or which cards were your favorite today. I'm going to finish it off by adding some dots with my contour liner. And of course I need to add a sentiment. You can definitely use the stamped ones, or if you want you can use some that you can cut out from the pattern papers. So that's what I'm doing here. Again, I will add foam squares at the back, and I like that it looks like a cluster. Lovely colors that match perfectly with the tags, and this is the finishing touch. So here are some close-up photos on this card. Simple but super adorable. If I had to choose, I would go with card number 3 and card number 9. Anyway, and now let's move on to the last card for today. For this one I'm using a scrap piece of pattern paper. I'm going to stick it on top of a panel that, as you can see, I did use my embossing folder there. I again fuzzy cut 3 butterflies, and I'm using foam squares at the back, and I'm just going to stick them in a row, one below the other. It's a really beautiful design. It's one of my go-to when it comes to butterflies. Just stick them one below the other, and you can leave some space for the sentiment. For the sentiment I'm going with one from the ribbons. I just have a very thin strip of paper, and I'm just going to rub that there. And again, you can use any sentiment that you like. Butterflies are pretty much great for every occasion. So I'm just going to rub it and peel it off, and then by using foam squares at the back, I'm going to put it in place. You can either place it on top of a butterfly or just squeeze it in between some butterflies like I'm doing here. You can finish it off again by the sequins that were included in the kit, or you know me, I love using my contour liner, so I'm just adding some dots with the iridescent one. And here are some close-up photos on the last card for today, as well as close-up photos on all the cards that I shared. Don't forget to leave me a comment and like the video if you are still with me up to now. Down below in the description you can find links to everything that was included in the kit. The kit, by the way, is sold out, but you can find different bits and pieces that were included separately. So you will find all the links that you need below. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope that you had fun, that you got inspired, and I'll see you all next time.